Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Sharing a Drink with Matt. Today I've got iconic Chris Masuak all the way from Spain. How are you, Chris?
Hey, good morning, or whatever it is. Time travelers.
Yeah, like that, isn't it? So Radio Birdman, Screaming Tribesman, New Christ, Jake Savage, Klondike North 40, Hitman, Raoul's. This one
Yeah,
is going to be a bit hard. By Diverio Wave Riders?
that's right. Viveiro
Yep.
Wave Riders. That's
Yeah,
the
wow.
place. That's where I live in Viveiro.
Okay. Yep.
And
So you,
and
yeah.
and the irony is there's absolutely no surf whatsoever here. So
So
we're on, we're
what way? Yeah.
we're
What
on the
way do
ocean.
you?
We're on the ocean, but there ain't no surf.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So you were born in Canada.
Yeah.
You came over to Australia.
Yep.
Um, what in Australia when you were growing up, what were you listening to as a kid? Like, what did your parents have on the stereo as you were growing up?
Well, I'm from that generation where um, there weren't any sort of limitations on the genres you listen to, right? So I'd be listening to stuff that on the same record player that my grandparents and my parents were listening. So it was like anything from Andre Kostelanetz to Led Zeppelin or Jimi Hendrix. But the one thing that everyone kind of agreed on at that particular time was Credence. So you know there was kind of like a lot of rock and roll. And also at that time, radio played everything. So it wasn't just, adult oriented rock or pop or whatever. So on the same radio station, you get all the pop hits. So, you get Stupid Cupid by Connie Francis, and you get, whatever, the letter by the Box Tops, or, it's, so it was everything.
Yeah,
And in our house, the record player was always going. It was always on. So it's really difficult to say, where any influences come from, because there was just everything playing.
yeah, yeah. So if you press play on the stereo now, what would you be listening to?
Lately, I have been listening to stuff by people that I know in Australia. So there's the Crisps. That's Stu Wilson's band. He's
Okay,
he's the he's the drummer in Dog Soldier, the band that I play with when I come to Australia. And that's some really nice melody driven pop. And I've been listening to some other friends, Jupiter Five, which are kind of
hmm
like a pretty rock and garage type band from Sydney. And there's another young band in Sydney called Pocket Watch, which are kind of genre defying. Well, it's kind of pop. The Stems just put out a kind of a lo-fi live album, which is really good. Um, so there's all that kind of stuff on. Also, there's a ton of older stuff that's been kind of re-released. So there's like Neil Young box sets and stuff. And I have to admit, well, at the time in back in the day, everyone and their dog owned Harvest or something like that. So we all listened to Neil Young. But I hadn't really listened to, a hell of a lot of his back catalog. So I've been listening to a ton of that. Um,
yep.
and there's a new newish Alice Cooper album called Road, which is pretty good. Um, I think, is that the one where he plays with his own band, his old band? I don't remember now. And there's lots of other stuff that's up and coming. But those are the ones that kind of like, caught my ear.
In your in the past, did you ever get to share the stage with the Stems as you brought them up?
Uh, yeah, we would have, but that would have been at the time of maybe the Screaming Tribesmen. But like the thing is that whatever bands I was in, we were always playing so much that we might have crossed paths or been on the same stage, but we never really got a chance to meet really, or even
Yeah,
particularly see each other, because it was like do the gig, bugger off to the next place. And
yeah.
that was the heyday of pub rock really. So we were playing 6 nights a week, sometimes 2 nights, 2 times the same night. And we were lucky enough to do that, and in those days we were like the pioneers of the inner city vanguard. We were bringing the inner city vibe out into the suburbs. Not that the suburbs didn't have their own thing, but we were sort of bringing that out into the outlying reaches. So we were pretty busy. So we may have run into each other, but probably never spoke.
Yeah, yeah. When were you last in Australia?
Beg your pardon? Oh, that was God. Was it last year? It might have last year. I was there in what month was that? It was cold, so it might have been October or something.
Okay,
Last year? Yeah. So we I was there for a quick run with Dog Soldier, which is Stu Wilson on drums and Tony Bambosh, the chief, on bass. He's from he was in the Lime Spiders. Um,
yes, yes.
we're like a little family over there. We did a short run. Got up to the Gold Coast and I think as far down as Geelong, but we didn't make it
Okay,
elsewhere. It's just time constraints and the distance. I mean,
yeah.
from the distance from Sydney to Melbourne is the entire length of Spain. So people
Wow.
don't people don't realize the distances over here. I
Yep,
can go to Madrid in 5 hours. Just driving.
wow. Yep,
So well,
yep.
probably a bit more, but the distances in Australia are just so vast, and I think Australians forget that themselves. They say, "Oh, you
Mm.
didn't make it to Adelaide, or you didn't make it to Perth," and you go, "Well, you know, I've only got so much time," which is a
Yeah,
shame.
exactly. Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. Um, what's your favorite genre of music? What's the one for you?
I I keep on going back to um, jazz, so I listen to it mostly jazz, I guess, um, but of a period. So I'm listening to bebop, early '60s stuff. So it's obviously the Coltrane's and the Thelonious Monks and that kind of stuff. Wes Montgomery a lot. But as far as other stuff goes, I have such an incredibly huge um, collection. It depends on the mood. It goes from country through to classical. I mean, I've got a garage band here that I was invited to play with. It's a band called Los Revelators. They're in the next village, which is like an hour away from here.
Okay.
It's actually a Roman walled city. The wall circles the entire city. It's still standing 2,000 years later. And
Wow.
anyway, we're like a garage band, and I applied some Haydn to a guitar solo because I wanted something more colorful. So I picked up a piece and I went, "What the hell is that?" And I looked up through my records and I go, "Oh, that's Haydn of all weird things." But That's a difficult question to answer. I like,
Mm.
I keep on going back to 70s guitar sounds because it's sort of like a less compressed, broader. You can hear the wood of the guitar, and it's like wood, strings, guitar amp, and not much else in the way of processing. Whereas now I find that there's a generic quality to nearly everything because everyone's using the same, plugins. They're not necessarily using amps. Even live, they're not using amps. They're using whatever they're called, quilters, like modules. And there's no air moving, and it sounds very compressed and plastic, and I fucking hate that. So I'm listening.
Mm.
If anything, I'm listening to stuff that has really gritty, beautiful guitar sounds. So we're talking about early Ted Nugent when he was with the Amboy Dukes. So the like survival of the fittest types era, and
Yep.
um, and also the Dictators early stuff with Ross the Boss, the earlier Blue Oyster Cult albums, um, all that kind of obvious stuff. MC5, um, and of course all that stuff by Sonic Smith. The little box sets you can get where so basically all live. But there's some really good recordings like Live at the Second Chance, where there's just phenomenal guitar sounds. So anything with a great guitar sound is the stuff I'm listening to,
Yeah.
and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So who I've always wanted to ask is who made the riff of Aloha Stephen Danner? Where did that riff come from? Like I know from the tune for the show, but because you
Well,
you
well,
you
Tech had
were in.
Tech had written that one, and
Yeah, yeah,
and um,
because
and
you took over from Pips, didn't you?
no, I joined at the end of 1975 when I was still in high school. So
Yeah,
I did my high school in Maroubra Bay High, and
yeah, yeah,
so the keyboard player had left, and I had been a fan of the band and had been visiting them, and I was a guitar player, and they liked my playing, and I knew all the stuff. So I just kind of osmosed into the band. I didn't even have an audition. It was like, oh, you're in the band, and so I kind of like just latched on, and my goal was to complement whatever Tech was doing because he had a really dynamic style, tremendous velocity in those days, and and all those songs were already intact, so I just tacked myself onto it. So I was just a glorified rhythm player, and I played the melodic parts, wherever they might be. But Tech was in charge of all the, solos and stuff as well. He should have been. So,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah,
my responsibility was just to be a complement to what was already there, And I was very young, so I didn't feel like I was qualified to do much more than, latch on and go for it, And it was fine,
definitely.
being in the coolest band in Australia at the time when you're a teenager is kind of okay.
Yeah, definitely. So Klondike, where did the nickname come from?
We were
What's that all about?
at River Bay High School, and I had a bunch of friends. One guy in particular, Stephen Harris, his nickname was Waffus, um, and that was an acronym for Well-Oiled Funky Salad. We even had a song, Well-Oiled Funky Salad Blues, and he kept on. And my name was Masuak, right? So, Australians never call you by your real name, and of course, Masuak is like alien crap. So he was calling me Moose Klondike, and I was going, "Oh man, just drop the moose thing, hey." Anyway, they started calling me Klondike, and that was where that was at.
Yeah,
Ron Keeley used to call me Chris Boy King, but that one, but that was taken.
Yeah. Uh, um, Look, you've been playing since the 70s. Do you feel social media has affected the music scene in general?
Well, I think from what I'm observing firsthand is that you're getting a lot of the YouTubers, the guys whose job it is to be seen to get likes and stuff, who aren't necessarily musicians, becoming the next generation of guitar heroes. So you have YouTubers um, shredding away with their signature guitars and blah blah blah, and then now they're headlining um, festivals and stuff. You go see
Yes.
them and you go, well, where's the song? To
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
to me, music is about music. It's about constructing songs with some kind of structure and dynamic and
Mm,
continuity.
mm.
It's not just a selection of various ideas cobbled together with widdly widdly. But that's the way it is
Yeah.
now, and it's driven by you know how popular you are on social media. And if you're not a social
Yeah.
media savvy person or disinterested, you're pretty much left behind, which is okay
Mm,
because we have our own niche, and we play and have fun. And interestingly,
yeah.
all these bands and stuff, that you end up on stages with, at the end of the gigs, they all come over and they look at my stuff, they look at my amp and they look at my little pedal board, which is very small. They go, how do you do that? How do you get that sound? And I go, well, it's just bells and whistles, but it's amp and guitar. Well, how do you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
Because again, they've got no amps on stage, and oh, how do you do
Yeah.
that? What do you do? And it's because it's a big, broad sound, and
Mm,
and and that's lacking. But yeah, social media is kind of, you know, co-opted the fashionistas, and
yeah. Yeah.
and the other thing that buggered it up was the lockdown over here because
Oh,
when
definitely. Yep.
when they had the crisis, it was actually genuine. It was real. There were like you know hundreds of thousands of people literally keeling over, and the hospitals were chock a block. The
Mm,
doctors and the nurses were determined not to let anyone die, and everyone was dying. In Madrid, there were skating rinks that were used as morgues because the morgues were so filled up. It was
yeah.
insane.
Keeps the body cold. Yeah.
It was insane. And
Wow.
when people say, "Oh no, it's just a conspiracy," there's nothing ever happened. They go, "We were here. It was real."
Yep.
And
Yep.
and that buggered it up because, of course, after that really lengthy period, the scene had completely dissolved. And now what we
Yep.
find is that the next generation of players play for free. So now promoters go, "Oh, yippee, we don't have to pay anyone now." And that's the
Mm,
way it is. There's no good bands. There's just bands that will play for nothing. And
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
bugger, it's kind of for fuck's sake. You need some kind of guarantee if you're going to travel, you know, 500 kilometers to do something. And um,
For sure.
it's
Yeah.
just nuts.
Yeah. For
But
sure.
again,
That's what-
if we were YouTubers, I'm sure we'd be fine.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I put my show on. My show comes up on YouTube. That's where people watch it.
Yeah.
But I'm not there saying, "Give me likes, give me share it," blah blah blah. Like it's not anything
No,
like
yeah.
that for me. I
No,
don't
I
I
know.
don't know. It's
Yeah.
just
No,
I
no, there
want
are
to get
people
the
whose
music
whose
out there.
entire there's people whose entire being is predicated on, how much,
Okay. Yep.
stuff they can sell, and
Yeah.
so they basically do a program or, show off new
Yep.
products or show off guitars
Hmm.
and whatnot. And that's
Oh,
what they're doing is irrelevant. What's important to them is all the clicks. It's not quality and content. It's just,
mm,
the
mm.
style, they're
And it,
influencers.
there's fuckwits out there that are fucking idiots that are out there injuring themselves to get likes, to get views, doing stupid shit that.
Well, that's the whole premise behind Kick-Ass, isn't it? you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so they've just raised the bar. That's all.
yeah. That's it. That's it.
And who
So
and who doesn't like Kick-Ass? I mean, to some degree, you know.
oh, they definitely do some far out things. That's for sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So you were saying before that you had an interview yesterday.
Oh no, no, no. I just missed. I was missing you because of the time difference. That's all.
Oh,
You know,
okay, all right.
and also I'm constantly juggling and calculating in my mind because I've got friends and family in Australia and friends and family in Canada and United States, and we're always trying to figure out what the heck time it is.
Yeah,
Luckily on your phone, you can just go boink and you can see now.
yeah.
But but it's kind of is it the middle of the night? So I mean, some people are ringing me, hey, blah blah blah, and it's like 3 in the morning, and my phone's going off. Now I don't even have my phone. I have it in another room now, charging because I
Yeah.
can't. Everyone's going beep beep, and this freaking thing is vibrating. I'm
Yeah.
sure you can. I'm sure you can turn that off, but I don't know how. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm a luddite. I'm not hip to that, and I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. Do you still keep in contact with the members of the bands that you once played in Australia? Do you keep
No,
in contact?
some I do. I mean, the relationship with Birdman has been famously documented in that movie they made, Descent into the Maelstrom, and I
Yeah.
think the the director Jonathan Sikera was genius because he allowed the story to come out told by the words and the actions of the people themselves, and so everyone rose to their level of incompetence by themselves. And it was just genius. They just cut their own throats. And I thought that was the be all and end all of, the story. So if anyone's familiar with that story, there's absolutely no reason I would be communicating with those people. And oddly enough, another book just came out, in which the writer, I mean, I've skimmed through it, and the writer was clearly not as clever as he thought he was, and he was duped into rewriting the story according to the narrative of some of the people who looked stupid in the movie. So there's no honor amongst thieves, let's put it that way. And so
Yeah.
I don't communicate with them. I did catch up with some of the guys like from the Screaming Tribesmen days. The last time I was there, Nick Madew came and joined us on stage for a few songs up in Queensland, and Michael Charles, a previous drummer, um, and still run into some of the old crew, but in general, you know, there's there's too much dirty water under bridges, and I'm too old and grumpy to you know want to hang out with bad people.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
That's, that's maybe that's churlish and childish of me, but I know that's the way it is.
Oh, even these days in the punk scene in Australia now, like I'm on a lot of punk sites, and it's just not like a family. Like I've been in the scene since '83, and
Yeah,
it was always like I was a part of something kind of
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, sure, there's a lot of great people that I've met doing this show, and there are a lot of great people in the scene, but there's a lot of bitching going on too, and
Yeah,
it's a
but
shame
you
because
know, yeah, that's always been a feature of of the music scene, though. You know, even back in the old days, you know, it was never a case of, oh, you know, the tribesmen are doing really good, good on you guys. It was always, you know, backstabbing and sniping and, you know, crap. And
mm,
at one time in particular, um, this was way back in the Hitman days. We had started to do really, really well in the live scene. So again, we were taking that kind of Birdman thing, post Birdman thing, and trying to get out into the wider Australia. And we were really successful. You know, we had trucks, we had crew, we had lighting because you had to have your own lighting and PA, big PA. You know, we had the whole shooting match, and we went, okay, fine, we can do this. Let's take a rock and roll circus out there, and we'll get a bunch of bands from Sydney, and we'll take them out where they can't go, and we'll have like a party, you know, everywhere we'll go. It'll be like really good. We'll take the load off us, blah blah blah. And could we get any bands to fricking cooperate? You know, nah. You know, it's like, oh, I'm not going to support them. No, I don't want to play with them. No, we have to go on first. Ah, blah, blah, blah. And we just went, oh, screw it, man. And we just did our
mm,
own thing. And that's why we got this kind of reputation of being insular and difficult, because we weren't being difficult. We were trying to help the scene, but everyone else was trying to obstruct it. And we just went, screw you guys, you know? And it's been like that since, like, when was that? That was 1983, you know. And
mm.
as far as I can tell, it's, you know, it hasn't changed a heck of a lot. A lot of the younger bands are pretty cool to each other, though. Like, you look at
Yeah,
what's that? Yeah, the Pocket Watch and what the hell are they called? I want to say Star Child, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. But there's a ton of young bands that are, you know, just doing, you know, tons of stuff and cooperating in their own scene. So, you know, maybe age is an option.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So why Spain? What made you go
Oh,
to
well,
Spain?
um, back in the early days of social media, you know, you know, you'd have, you know, you'd be writing stuff and you'd have people actually reading, and it wasn't like just zip, 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 zip. You know, it was just a little slower and more, you know, people were actually communicating, and you were building up like a little network of, you know, new acquaintances and friends over distance. And you'd find out that, you know, people that have the same interests would continue to speak with you, and it wouldn't be like on Facebook where you go, I like cheese, so you're an idiot, you know, that kind of thing. It was like, oh, what
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
cheese do you like? And then you'd have a cheese community, or, you know, whatever. And
yeah,
so we, over time, we were building up these friendships, and that's what happened. You know, I built up friendships, and then these friendships, you go, oh, we should meet up, or we should phone, and da 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 da. And then as we traveled, we'd catch up, and then before you know it, it was like, oh, I think I'd like to get to know you better. And so that's why I ended up in Spain, because coming to Australia was very difficult at that time because of immigration policy.
mm,
Australia was very paranoid about, you know, immigrants and terrorists and, you know,
yeah,
people
yeah,
throwing children overboard and crap like that.
yeah.
And it was a nightmare, and it was much easier to go to Spain, and that's what happened. And I got married and moved to Spain.
Nick
Because
Cave's over there too, isn't he?
what's that?
Is Nick
Who?
Cave over in Spain? Nick Cave.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I don't know. Um, I know there's a few Aussies over here. Johnny Casino's over here, and
Okay.
he plays quite a lot. Um,
Yep.
but he's over on the other side of the country. I'm over on the northwest. He's over on the east. So it's like the difference
Yeah.
between Adelaide and Sydney.
Right. Right. So in Vivero, um, is the vocalist, does he sing in Spanish?
Yeah, well, that's sort of that's the general, universal language. But this is Galicia, and Galicia has its own historic culture and language, and in fact, Gallego was spoken around most of Spain, centuries back. But
Yeah.
it's the whole of north of Spain has quite a different um, vibrant culture than the south. Whether it's
Yeah.
from the Basque Country or Asturias or Galicia, and they all have their own dialects. And in the
Yeah.
past, those those groups were regarded as peasants, or the Irish of Spain. The bottom,
Yeah.
the brunt of jokes. But there's a
Yeah.
new kind of pride, and they don't put up with that shit anymore. So
Yeah.
a lot of Gallego is spoken here, and in actual fact, I have my son who's now 12. He's just gone into high school, but his first school spoke Gallego, so he speaks Galician, Spanish, and English, and is learning French in high school now. So he's there's
Yep.
language, and when you think
Are
about,
you fluent?
I am shitty. I get by, but I'm not
Is it
right.
is it hard sometimes when you're playing with the band and you do you sometimes have no idea what the fuck you're singing about? Or
Oh no, everything's in English. We're they actually prefer, in my other band, they want me to speak in English. I'm the singer because I speak English. And I go, I don't want to
okay.
sing, Yeah, but you write the songs and blah blah blah. I go, I don't want to sing. Well, you have to, blah. So I'm not singing because I want to. I have to.
Yeah.
But it's all in English, yeah. So, and we speak English here at home,
Yeah.
and everyone here
Yeah.
is fluent in this household. And I go out and I can navigate the supermarket and stuff, but I'm not particularly adept. My brain's not wired. I'm too old to learn that crap.
There's got to be, you've got to have some stories. You've got to have some stories. You've got such a array of different bands, different eras, everything like that. What was your most memorable gig that you've played? The one that sticks out in your mind that fuck yeah, that was great.
One that keeps coming back to me, and I've probably mentioned this a billion times, but the one that is probably the most enduring memory was back in the Funhouse days, and so it had to be really late 76, maybe 77, in the
Are we
olden days.
talking? Is this Brad Shepherd Funhouse?
No, this is Radio Birdman days.
Oh,
So
okay, yep.
yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah,
we're like playing in the fun house, the Oxford Fun House,
yeah,
and and um, and typically, um, it's like a little wedge shaped room, and wooden floor, kind of grungy, and at the best of times, we're looking at 20 to 50 people or something, and more people are starting to come because we're playing Friday and Saturday nights, and we got a jukebox there, um, and then there might be some other bands like the Hellcats or something, and and then one night it just seemed like the place was full, and there was a line of people that had spilled down the stairway because it was like on the first floor or something, first or second floor. I can't remember. First floor. And anyway, it spilled down the stairs around the bend and down onto the street. So it's like, this little hump of people, like a big spermatozoa with the head up in the room. And we're as usual, heads down, just going for it. And the place just went, and I'll never forget that sound, this, and that woke me up because it was like, oh shit, we're onto something. We're doing something here, and that's before that it was, playing a band, whatever. But this was like a pivotal moment where there's activity here. So that's an enduring memory. Otherwise,
Yeah.
man, we were just so busy, and I can hardly remember, what went on. We had so much activity in the Hitmen days when I came back and formed the Hitmen. It took a while to, consolidate. It took a while to consolidate a lineup, but we were so incredibly busy that I can hardly remember what the hell was happening. And that continued, from the Hitman morphing into the New Christs, and then into the Screaming Tribes, and it was just like one continuum, just of incredible, really solid activity. So, but it was all great. It was just playing music and traveling, and it was nothing better.
Yeah. Did you ever play at the Playroom on the Gold Coast?
Oh yeah, many times.
With Screaming Tribes, and you played there, yeah?
Oh yeah, and the even the Hitmen played there many times. Whether we headlined it or were supporting bands, played with just about everyone as well. In those days there were kind of several different levels. So there was like the commercially successful touring bands. So that was your Dragons and the Angels and stuff like that. So they were the guys that were on radio. And then there were the pub bands like us, which had virtually no commercial success, but were playing all the time. And then there was the, third tier bands, which were like about everyone else. And so, we played with the Angels many times. Doc Neeson with his little bottle of oxygen. We were going, just chill out, man. Because huffing is oxygen. And, but it was pretty active times, and I mean, we did our share of carrying equipment and lugging, bloody W bins up 3 flights of stairs at various venues. It's just, we did everything.
Yeah. Okay, so the iconic gig at Paddington Town Hall in Sydney, Radio Birdman and the Saints.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to try to understand this, how Chris Bailey, in between a couple of songs, he said that he'd like to thank the Hitler Youth for decorating the venue. What was that all about? Do you remember what that was about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had, at that stage, we had, been putting up flags. So we had our Birdman symbol and, uniform shirt, and we had the patch and stuff like that. But, what had happened was that, we had this anthem, New Red City, hop, and all that stuff. And the press had started, conflating crowd activity with Nazi rallies and stuff. It was a press thing. So we went, oh, okay, so we're suddenly Hitler Youth. Okay, we'll go with that. So we played it up. So we played it up, and we put up more flags. And I mean, we'd always had flags on our amps. It's a rock and roll thing, right? The MC5 had American flags. We had our Radio Birdman flag.
Yeah.
So we just put up more freaking flags and bigger flags, right? And and so this crowds hopping, and the thing is, it's a community. Like it's in those days there was no scene. The scene was where your fans went. So we played a gig, everyone came, that was the scene, and the venue owners would freak out, and the locals would freak out, and it caused mayhem. And so we had this reputation, but it wasn't because we were right-wing fanatics. It was just because we had this activity. And so when the Saints came over, they were kind of given the key to the city. We come over, come to our place, meet us, blah, blah, have a party, come to our gigs, and they were really ungracious. They were a bunch of fucking pricks, and smart ass, and I don't know what that was. So, Chris Bailey was just being a dick. And he said that, and he was like, there's no reason to be snotty because we were giving them that opportunity. They didn't have the opportunities. We provided that for them. The fans that came along to see them provided that for them. They had fuck all in the South, but we gave them venues to play in, a forum to open up their fucking mouths, and they just, treated everyone like shit. So, to this day, I don't give a good flying fuck about the Saints, although I ran into Bailey many, many, many times, in various incarnations and played with him and stuff. So, and he was always kind of, he was always affected very badly to the point I don't think he remembered speaking. But anyway, that was that. It was just a bunch of fucking people from up in Brisbane escaping Joe Bielke Peterson coming down and treating new friends like shit, pissing on their carpet. So, fuck them. Really.
Yeah. Did you ever have anything to do with Mick Blood from Lime Spiders?
I think the tribesmen may have. I don't remember actually playing with them, but I know that it was always very difficult. Mick Blood, we'd always come off stage, and Mick Blood and his mates would have drunk all our rider. It's like, oh, for Christ's sake, Mick, not again. But that's about the extent of our association with him.
Right.
I know that. I know that he's tried to reform the band several times, but unsuccessfully.
Yeah, the last time he tried to form was one big fuck up. He shit himself and beat up a bar lady or barman or something, and
well, he had a band. He had a really, really good little band, and he came over here and did Purple Festival, and the band was just dynamite. I can't remember who's in that. I think Phil Hall was in it. I can't remember who was playing guitar and drumming, but they were just such a great sounding band. And then you saw the video of him, and he was just a fucking disaster. And but the band themselves, man, they were amongst the best, like little units I've seen.
Yeah.
But,
so, yeah. What's the like we had the most memorable gig. Have I like asking this question. I remember when the Sex Pistols played in Texas and they played in front of a bunch of cowboys. Have you ever played a gig where you just shouldn't have been there. Yeah, it wasn't.
Uh, yeah, probably. In the earliest of the Birdman gigs, we were often playing in front of audiences that were just like going, huh? Because there was nothing like that. If you remember what the radio was like back in those days, it's William Shakespeare and Sherbet, and
Yeah,
it's pretty innocuous pop. Nusha Fox. I don't know. I
yeah,
can't. It's just Countdown, the Countdown thing, and we used to watch Countdown because it was just so offensive. It was like a game watching and trying not to cringe, because we hated that kind of music. So
yeah,
that's what the audiences were liking. Bands like Hush were going out and that playing shit, and
mm,
so when we went and played, it was the venues and the audiences were genuinely horrified. So I was like,
mm,
this oil painting. And so subsequently, what we had to do was, okay, we can't be part of that because they hate us. So we created our own um, thing, so that's why we did the Blitzkrieg tour and whatever,
yeah,
because it was our own scene coming to our own gigs because we couldn't
yeah.
necessarily play anywhere else. So it
Didn't you
became,
start?
sorry?
Sorry, didn't you start your own venue at
Yeah,
one stage?
that was the Oxford Funhouse. So that was
Yeah, yeah,
the Oxford Tavern in
yeah, yeah,
Taylor Square,
yep,
and
yep,
and it was like this dead room, and we went to the owner and said, "Hey, can we hold our gigs here?" And so we sold, they sold beer, and we played gigs, and we put in a jukebox, and the jukebox was filled with the band's own singles. So it was like, all the stuff that was new and upcoming was on that jukebox. That's where people heard all that stuff first, whether it was the Clash or the Pistols or the Nerves or whatever, or Blondie for
yeah,
that matter.
mm,
So those we were creating our own scene because we had to, because everywhere we went, people just went, and in some instances, and this wasn't particularly when after I joined, but before I joined, the guys had to walk out of venues holding mic stands to protect themselves
wow,
from bouncers who wanted to beat them up,
yeah,
just because they were so different.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, there was a lot of horrifying responses, and even when we played with the Hitmen going out into northern Queensland, it's like, uh, they wanted top 40 hits and they didn't get it. So
yeah. So how long playing live with Birdman? How long till you really got a following? Uh, 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 the as you were saying before, how
oh yeah,
how long before?
well, the band had been formed in 1974 or something, so it was just starting out, and
Yeah,
and and they had, for the first times that I went to see them, it was with their new bass player. I kind of met um, the guitar player. He'd come to a gig, one of my bands. I was at a high school band, and we were playing at a girls' school dance. And our singer, um, Steve Jones, his brother Chris Jones, uh, was in a band that Tech was in. So they both came to see the younger brother sing, and they liked my guitar playing. So we became friends. And then I went to see their band, and they were at that stage just getting a new bass player, which was Warwick Gilbert. And, there was a smattering of a crowd, maybe 20 or 30 people at any given gig. And they were just phenomenal. And even at that stage, they were just a powerful, cohesive little unit, and it was almost like a cult. The fans' um, appreciation of the band was cult like, and there was no real differentiation between band and audience. It is, like a ball of cats flying, and and so Tech came up with this anthem, and and it was just like natural. Everyone just started going, yeah, hubby, and that happened really, quite early on in the piece. This fanaticism, the crowd participation, and whatnot, and everyone likes
Yeah.
doing that. Everyone likes doing that
Mm.
stuff. So
Yeah.
when my first gig was December '75. I don't think we were playing that song then, but by the end of '76, it was uniforms and flags and you know nonsense basically.
Yeah.
So
It
I
was
don't.
it was just like the Angels really with I ever gonna see your face again. No way, get
Yeah,
fuck off. And
yeah. That was, but
it
that was
just
way. That was sort of post Birdman. That was all that post Birdman
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely.
The Angels. I think the Angels basically took there's. I mean, shadow boxing. If that isn't a ripoff of the new race, I don't know what is. But they were
I've
basically,
actually had someone else say that to me.
yeah.
I have. I've had someone say that to me.
Yeah, but they were post Birdman, and I think when Birdman disappeared so suddenly, it left a tremendous void, and bands rushed in, to fill it, so you had your Midnight Oils and
Celibate Rifle.
Angels, and Cold Chisel for that matter. They
Yeah,
all those bands learned from what we did. So, that's that sort of cottage industry attitude, do it yourself, you know, us against the oppressor type attitude.
yeah,
But we disappeared so rapidly, it's like bang, we're gone. And so it was very short, concentrated burst of energy that completely altered people's perceptions and of what was possible in music there. And we just buggered off. That's the
mm,
and that was it until years later when we kind of reformed and repeated our mistakes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, but it was a good time. It was a busy time, and you know,
Mm.
like I said, I was young, and what else is there to do?
Yeah. Other than the Funhouse, what were your favourite venues? Where did you love playing?
Well, like you said, up in Queensland was always a really great place to play. Birdman never
Mm.
went up there. I mean, but the Hitmen and the Tribesmen played many of the venues up there. So
Oh,
um,
definitely saw them at
just
the Pat, Bombay
they're
Rock.
yeah, Bombay Rock,
Yeah,
Playroom. There's all those big beer barns were always fun, and wild always.
yeah,
It was just a
yeah,
very interesting time for music in Australia, and really vibrant, and the audiences were always really into it, that
yeah,
so
yeah,
particularly by the time the tribesmen came along, where things became a little bit more commercial, I guess. Um, the level that we were touring at was, a little bit more comfortable and full on. So, some of those gigs were really, really, um, I don't know, really kind of uh, huge. I was almost want to say corporate, because it was just so organized. There was a time when we were playing, the tribesmen and the church were playing together. We were doing a number of gigs together, and I think we kind of rubbed off on each other. Like we picked up a little bit of their, you know, um, poppy smoothness, and they picked up a bit of our, grunge.
yeah,
But so just huge crossover audiences that were no longer necessarily, cliquey. They were now more, generic radio listeners, which was kind of different.
Yeah.
It was almost like it was perilously close to successful, but we always managed to avoid that.
Do you still? I don't know. I don't know if this personal or not. Do you do you get royalties from
Oh
all
yeah,
these
yeah,
bands?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You get your songwriting royalties, of course, and so publishing
Hmm.
royalties are always a given.
Yeah.
Mechanical royalties from sales are almost extinct now because Spotify just
Spotify. Yeah.
has buggered. You know, it used to be that once or twice a year you'd get a present, so you get this couple $1,000 check, and now you
Yeah.
get like a check with 30 cents or something,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
I think it's
and it's
every time
it's
someone listens. Every time someone listens to one of your songs, I think you get 0.0005 of a cent.
yeah, yeah, it's negligible. It's nothing. You need
Yeah.
thousands of streams to make a
Yeah.
dollar, and and
Yeah.
um, and it's it's an insult to people who spend their lives creating and putting energy into their craft. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter the genre anymore. Whether you're a graphic artist or a musician or whatever the hell you are, someone has worked out a way to fuck you over and steal
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Just
So
like
basically,
burning DVD movies.
yeah,
Like it's just totally taking the cash from the producer, from the people who made the movie.
yeah,
Like one
yeah,
person buys a movie, makes 40, 50 copies, and it's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So now if you want to make money, you've got to be basically a salesperson and sell T-shirts and
hmm,
DVDs and stuff at your gigs so that you can afford to keep going and recording and stuff. I mean,
yeah.
here I there's my sales pitch.
Ah, excellent.
And so like I I, I wrote this about 2 years ago, and
Okay.
and you know you can if it's in a bookstore, you're lucky, that no one knows about it because it's all about the company you keep. It's
Yeah.
whether you get a publishing deal from some big company. So a guy that was actually in the band doing stuff writes a book, and no one knows about it. Although you can get this on I-94 bar site,
Okay.
but
Yep.
and then some so-called journalist writes a story about the band, and it's in every bookstore in Australia, and
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
fucking fantasy. So
Mm.
it so artists are basically only there to be exploited by other
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
you just have to go, okay, that's the way it is, and keep doing your thing, and
Yeah.
and play for the love of it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's about it.
Well, I put a bunch of bands on in a venue up in Sydney about a month and a bit ago,
Hmm.
and it cost me $350 to actually have the bands play,
Yeah.
and then they took $2 from every ticket sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, Like they
I
gave me
know.
free alcohol all night. They gave me the bar gave me free alcohol all night. But after, because it was disgusting. After I paid all the bands, I walked out of there with negative $240 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I walked out of there with nothing, and I was like, yeah, it was just I was totally disgusted. And then I get messages from this venue saying that was the best bar night we've had. We sold that much alcohol. It was the best night we
Yeah.
had for a Sunday. Blah blah blah. Please put on some more bands. Please do blah blah blah. And I'm thinking, well, if you're making that much money on the bar,
Yeah. Yeah. Where's the
don't charge me the three
yeah.
fifty.
Yeah. There's no incentive to do stuff anymore, really,
Mm,
because it's exploitation.
yep,
But the thing is that venues know that they can get bands to play for nothing. They know that, you can get an ABBA cover band in there, it'll pack it out. You
yep.
can get your Pink Floyd cover band, it'll pack it out. Um, you get your original bands in there, good luck.
Yeah.
There's probably a handful of small venues that still cater to the smaller bands, but you know
Mm,
it's just the venues themselves seem to be being sucked up by whatever real estate agents who are just interested in the bottom line, which is fair
mm,
enough from their point of view. But
mm,
really, if you have a pub, it's supposed to be something that serves the community. I would have thought, but it's not. It's not about serving the community or providing for a need. It's just there for you know
mm,
harvesting dollars. But again,
mm,
like I get their point of view, but it's really antithetical to music
mm.
or art.
So I asked you what your favorite genre was. Have you got a genre that you won't listen that you just cannot listen to?
Yeah, there's a ton of songs. I think one of the it's like songs that have a hook but nothing else. It's not even a song. It's just this hook. There's a song called "What's
Yeah.
Going On," which I hate with a passion, and "Run to Paradise." I
Oh my
by the
God,
Choir
yeah.
Boys. I mean,
Yep.
it's like that's all there is. It's just this one line. It's like a hook with nothing around it,
Yeah.
and you can't get away with it. Go to Australia, all you hear is this freaking "Run to Paradise." Turn on the radio.
Hmm.
What's going on? Everyone's doing this thing. All these acoustic, young sweet things doing what's going on. You're going, my God,
Oh,
wasn't
yep.
someone write a song for Christ's sake? But I hate
Exactly.
that. I freaking
Yeah.
hate those songs with a passion. I think
Oh,
whoever
definitely.
wrote. But anyway, there's probably songs that I wrote people hate just as much.
Maybe, maybe not.
Well, I
So
mean, for every one song that does get passed, that the band decides to play, whatever the band is, there's probably 20 or more that I just go, nah, you know, I've it's not any that just sucks.
yeah, yeah. So if you were asked to do the score of a movie,
Yeah,
what genre of a movie would you like to do the score of? What
I think I
uh,
would.
uh,
I really think like a medieval period piece. With real,
yeah,
where things are really shitty. There's mud and crap everywhere, and people are dirty.
yeah,
And it's just a dangerous and horrifying time to live in. Something like that. Be
yeah.
fun.
I don't know if you've seen the movie, The Proposition, which were,
No.
I think the screenplay was written by Nick Cave, and he did the score for it as well. And it was just so daunting. Well, Nick Cave's music is daunting, I guess. But you know, it was just. I think that's the same as what you're trying to get at. It's just really daunting is
Yeah.
probably the only word I can think of. When you're in Spain, have you had any of the bands you played in your past go over there to play
Yeah.
festivals or
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Some bands have come over, um, but I don't bother with them. Uh, the thing here, what's interesting about Viveiro is it's like I said, basically it's a fishing village and medieval. There's churches here from that are over 1,000 years old. And
Wow.
a number of churches. I could throw a rock and hit a church that was built in, the year 1000. And and there used to be like a wall around the city, and there's still some gates here that are still up. So it's like a historic center. But
Wow.
just over behind me, and I'm overlooking like a harbor and out to the ocean. Just over behind me, they hold one of the world's biggest metal and thrash festivals
Oh
called
wow.
it's called Resurrection Fest. And
Oh
so
right. Is that where it is?
yeah, it's just here. So
Yeah. Right.
if I open my window, uh, a couple of years ago there was Kiss, Judas Priest, Iron
Yeah.
Maiden,
Wow.
Slipknot,
No effects have played there.
um, Motorhead played here a
Yep.
few, just before he passed away.
Yep.
So just you name it, and my band played there at one of the small stages, of course. But
Yep.
one of the biggest metal thrash festivals, and the music
Yeah.
here,
Definitely.
people
Hmm.
here are really deep into thrash and metal, which is
Yeah.
not my favorite genre, but they're deep into it.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Chris. I've been. Uh, I'm actually so amazed that I haven't actually been shaking the whole time because I've been so nervous. The last time I was this nervous when I interviewed someone. It was Blackie, Peter Black from the Hard-Ons. It was the last nervous interview I had, and no,
I'm
you
completely
played that well.
harmless.
Yeah, no, you made me feel at ease. Thank you so much for being on the show, and yep, I'll send you some details and everything.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I hope to see
Excellent.
you probably mid to late next year in Australia.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll keep in touch for
Take
sure.
care.